Good evening, YouTube, and everybody in the chat. Hello, guys. Welcome to another Yellow Belly Tabletop live stream. You'll notice straight from the get-go, I am Sans, my co-host. Sadly, tonight, it's going to be hello, Crispin, stroke because of Ben. It's going to be very weird talking to myself tonight. I do hate doing these streams solo, but as those of you who were here, it's been a couple of weeks, but as those of you who were here a couple of weeks ago know, David has stuff going on in his real life, his non-YouTube life. Without spoiling too much, he's moving house, buying his first place. So you can imagine he has an absolute ton on his plate. Hence why we didn't stream last week, because I was helping him do a bit of decorating and getting his pad ready to move into. And to be honest, that and other stuff has just tied him up this week as well. So hence we have no David. He has threatened he may show up in the chat, but to be honest with you, if what he told me is true, he's he's going to be too busy, bless him. Anyway, welcome. Let's greet everybody who's in the chat. Hello, Darren. Although goodbye, Darren. Looks like Darren's not going to be with us tonight, but he's going to catch up later on YouTube. You do that, mate. And I hope you don't have too stressful a day at work. I'm working tomorrow as well. Last working day for my place until after Christmas. So I imagine the balloon's going to go up. And for those of you who don't know, my day job, I'm a pharmacist. So I imagine everybody and his dog's going to want all their prescriptions in the last few hours before we shut, and it's going to be bloody chaos. But such is Christmas every goddamn year. Yeah, bizarrely enough, yes, Ewok. I don't know if you're psychic or whatever. They're not actually. They are both moving places at the same time. So I doubt she'll be about tonight either. I'm not sure if Tim's going to be here, because I did message Tim to see if he wanted to sit in the chair, because Tim's a fantastic guy to have for these sort of things. But sadly, he's got family commitments and that as well. If you're watching this on the catch-up, Tim, hope your family get better soon, and I hope things hope you have a great Christmas. So we have got Crispin because of Ben. I don't know, my kebab's gone the wrong way. I think I'm choking on it. I think you said you're going to be muted. You're going to be muting us, Crispin. Well, that's fine. You hang around for as long as you can, son. You got to work. Hello, Orinoco. Hello, Paul Howell, sir. And of course, hello, Ewok, who I've already spoken to earlier. And to everybody else who's catching up later on YouTube, hello to you as well. This stream's probably going to be a little bit different to our usual streams, because obviously I'm flying solo. It may not go on for the full 2 hours. But also, I'm going to say this now, I don't know how long this Christmas hat is going to last, because frankly, I've got my bloody headphones, my hobby goggles, and this stupid Christmas nonsense, and frankly my head is probably going to explode unless I take some of the crap off. But anyway, I'm gonna follow roughly our usual format. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, our usual format on these live streams is that first of all we'll chat about what we're going to be doing for hobby while we sit and talk, because that's the main driver for this. We're going to sit here and we're going to give you something interesting to listen to while you get some hobby related work done, whether that be prepping your latest D&D campaign, or painting some models, or building some terrain, all those little hobby related chores that we have to do that sometimes go a little bit easier with some accompaniment or a distraction at the back of your brain, something you don't have to think about too hard. So I'll run you through, guys, what I plan to try and get done, bearing in mind I am flying solo. Then we will have a chat about what I did at our club night on Monday just gone. And because it's been 2 weeks, I will briefly mention the Monday before. And then we'll talk about what we normally do is talk about some cool stuff we've seen on YouTube's exciting new products that might be coming out. Um, uh, and then we'll discuss the main topic. So what I'm planning to do for you guys tonight is to just have yeah, that is a mic. Yeah, that is a mic. Are you not hearing me? Because OBS says you should be hearing me, Paul. Can somebody just confirm that we have got audio? That would be great if you can. Anyway, let me go back to it. No, the hat is definitely, yeah, yeah. The hat is the extra. But it's Christmas, so we've got to do it, haven't we? Where were we? Oh yeah. So what I'm going to do for you guys tonight is basically now somebody who was dedicated to YouTube, somebody who was a consummate professional, would have gone through their entire library of content over the last 12 months and reviewed all of the games that they talked about, all the things they played, the events they went to, the products they might have bought and tried, and given you a real, encapsulation of their entire hobby year. I didn't do that. What I did was basically, I thought I'll do it like this: highlights and lowlights. I'll give you three things that I consider were high points on my hobby year, and three things that I consider were fucking lows, frankly, on my hobby year. So it'll be just me rambling, obviously for about 20 minutes, half hour. So, yeah. Oh, Crispin, how did you guess? Oh, yes. Yeah. The thumbnail is very much a teaser. So, if you don't think you're gonna like what you're gonna hear, now's the time to stop. But yes, if it helps, Games Workshop does appear on both lists, but it's complicated, and we'll get into that. So first of all, what am I going to do tonight? Right, well, as David's not here, and I don't have to risk being abused and mocked openly on the internet, tonight, Michael, we're going to be doing this. So, Army Painter dip. Okay, so let me see if I can bring this up on my desk cam. Let us do that. And here we go. Yeah, okay. No, I'm not. Yeah, do you know what, Crispin? I've heard people. So essentially, this product is a bit old school, and it is. I understand why. It's a product that has really fallen out of favor with a lot of people. It's one of the first products, if not the first product, that Army Painter sort of launched when they became a company many moons ago. Essentially, what you've got is a polyurethane varnish with a brown tint. So, as Crispin, because of Ben, has said in the chat, it's much the same as any other polyurethane varnish that you might get for furniture applications or other things. But it found its sort of niche within our hobby for people who wanted to get like a wash effect. So where you put a dark tone on that you want to have more effect in the recesses of your miniature and give it an overall shaded look, and do it quickly. Now, so this stuff is commonly referred to as dip because one of the ways that it was used initially and one of the ways that they recommend or advise that it can be used is you can literally get a pair of pliers or a um even just like a plastic glove, and then physically dip the models into this stuff, and then literally flick off the excess by literally doing that, and the model is done. Now, even I will say that's probably not the way to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss this product in probably a little bit more depth than I would on a normal what am I hobbying tonight, because obviously with being on my own, it'll help to fill out the time a bit. But hopefully you guys might find this useful if you've not used the product, not heard of the product, or had wondered whether it was something you should try and use. So I'm going to be what I'm using it for is my Japanese. Okay, so World War II bolt action models. These are my Japanese models. These are all painted with base coats. Everything is finished. Okay, so all of the flat colours are down on all of the areas that I want: webbing, pouches, weapons, blades, etc. Everything is done. What I'm going to do is apply this product. I'm just going to get my brush. What I'm going to do is apply this product to the models, and then let's go back to the main scene transition. So we're going to go apply this product to the models, and then basically they're done. Okay, so the reason when I first bought the product, I tried the dip technique. The problem I found was the observant among you will also notice that this is the soft tone. So this is the least brown of the ones they do. I think they do two. They do the soft tone and the dark tone. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat. I don't think they do a mid one. I think it's just the two extremes. But even this soft tone has a lot of brown. Yes, strong tone. That was it. Yeah. Even this soft tone has a lot of pigmentation to it. It will tint everything that you apply it to and knock it back a hell of a lot. When I tried dipping with this, even the soft tone was overkill. I found it applied itself way too thickly. Even trying to shake the stuff off, you get a massive amount of layer on it. And obviously it sets like a solid polyurethane varnish. You get beading on low points, on elbows, for example, on models, you'll get beading. I very quickly moved to applying this by a brush. Not as quick as dipping, but that it's way more useful and way by far and away, I think, the better way to use the product. So yeah. Yeah, David's here. Well, welcome, mate. Yeah, I agree, Crispin. Brushing is the way to go. So you want to get yourself an absolute garbage brush, something that's literally just a cheap, crappy craft brush. If you really want to go, I mean, some of the brushes you get from DIY shops just for home painting, if you can get like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch, that's fine. But you do not use a quality brush with this product. It will wreck everything. Also, as Crispin said, this is a polyurethane varnish. Water is not what you want. You're going to need mineral spirits. You're going to need some sort of organic solvent to clean your brushes. So what have I learned using this product for years? Number one, this small tin is the only tin I've ever bought, and it's still half full. So this stuff goes a hell of a long way. You will not need to probably ever buy two in your lifetime unless you're a complete head case and paint way more than I do. Secondly, you have to think about what your end result is going to be and paint appropriately. Some of you might notice that these Japanese look a little bit pasty. Don't worry, that skin tone is not going to look like that after this dip. Okay, that's Vallejo Light Flesh. That is going to go, that is going to be way more realistic in terms of a skin tone once this stuff goes on. So we need to apply. We're applying it with a brush. We've painted our models in anticipation of using this product. Again, when you're applying it, just make sure that you'll put on a generous coat, but then you need to probably revisit the model after 1 or 2 minutes to check for where the excess is running. If a model's well designed and because again, this product was big when it was more popular to do one piece metal models. um if with modern sculpts where you've got much more dynamic posing, raised limbs, elevated weapons, that sort of thing, you have to be careful about where your excess is going and gathering. If it's gathering, like I've said, on an elbow, particularly if that's got a colour on it, you'll end up with a dark brown, very 70s style leatherette patch on the model, which you need to so after a couple of minutes, when that pooling and that dragging has started to happen, you need to get in there with your brush and wick away some of that excess, spread it so that it's not going to make the model look frankly terrible. So you need to do that. Also, don't leave it too long, because this stuff dries, particularly if you've got, like our house at the moment is very warm with the central heating. Although it won't be fully dry for probably 24 hours, it does touch dry and sticky, what I call sticky dry, very quickly. If you then try to slide it about, you will just rip it, because it's essentially just polyurethane plastic. Okay, so make sure that you do that cleanup step after only a few minutes, and then when that's done, they must be completely untouched. If you touch them with your fingers, you'll leave fingerprints, you'll completely wreck them. You can't reactivate this stuff, you don't get any second bites of the cherry easily. So you need to get in there, get a generous coat on, give it a couple of minutes, clean off for any unsightly beading or stuff that is really not working for you, and then then leave them. As I say, because of Ben there, Crispin's put overnight. Like I say, even after an 8-10 hours, these things will be tacky to the touch, and be very wary. I mean, by all means, pick them up by the base. You can handle them and move them around, but for God's sake, don't touch them. They will probably leave fingerprints. They will even pull skin cells off your hands, and you'll get, dry skin in your bloody varnish. I try to leave them completely untouched for 24 hours in an inaccessible place where there's going to get no dog hair, fluff, bits sticking to them. Okay. So, after you've done that, as Crispin said, they are going to be they're going to look like the miniatures are cast out of glass. Frankly, they're going to be so shiny, it's going to blow your mind, because this stuff dries just like a floor wax, just like a floor sealant. It'll dry high gloss. So, and again, this is why another product that was created, which is Army Painter's Anti-Shine, was designed specifically to work alongside this, to take that shine and give you a dead matte finish. You don't need to buy Anti-Shine. I still happen to think that Army Painter's Anti-Shine is the absolute best dead matte varnish spray on the market. I've used a lot. GW's newest varnish isn't bad. I can't remember what it's called, Munitorum varnish. They've had some crap spray varnishes in the past, but the new Munitorum one isn't bad. So don't feel that you have to buy anti-shine. Essentially, but what you want is a good dead matte varnish. I think the Americans, you guys have access to a product we don't get so much in Europe. Ash Barker and everybody else uses it. Somebody's in the chat, Crispin, what the hell's that? Famous Testers, isn't it? Dual coat, I think it's called. But you are gonna want to put something on, just to remove the shine. It only needs to be a dusting coat. You're literally adding enough texture to that varnish. Yeah, Testers dual coat. Fentanyl. No, Ewok, not fentanyl. You only need a dusting, because obviously you are not adding the spray varnish to provide any protection. When this quick shade dries, it's bulletproof. You will smash the models up before you will scratch the paint off. It's absolutely bulletproof, which was the other advantage, obviously, with those of us who've worked with a lot of metal models. Paint adherence, sort of hobby acrylic adherence onto metals is pretty crap. Even with a good undercoat, there's very rare I've had metal models that when they get the finger wear of touching and play, that you don't have to touch up. It's just one of them things with metal models. They will require some attention to get rid of, places where the paint's worn off. Well, not with Quickshade, they won't. With Quickshade, that paint is going fucking nowhere. Trust me. So as I say, the spray varnish is not offering you any kind of protection. It is not doing anything to save your paint job or anything like that. It is literally changing the surface texture of this so that instead of it being as smooth as a baby's arse, it has got that uneven surface that scatters light in just that pleasing way that gives us a matte finish that we human beings like to see on our natural textured surfaces. I suppose that's the other thing, is this product has its places where it's fantastic and its places where it's crap. Bear in mind that you're going to colour whatever you paint with an earthy overall tone. Stuff like militaria figures, stuff in drab palettes, they are going to be fantastic for this. If you've got a fantastic high elf army in coral blue and white, it's probably not going to look very good. Just saying right now. So again, it's a product in the arsenal. It's not perhaps something for everyone, but if you haven't used it, don't rule it out. Okay, it like so many things, it has its jobs, and those jobs it does very well if you use it properly. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to be trying to get a coat of this on all of these Japanese models. I've got about 13 infantry and the field gun and crew that you saw earlier, and that's my hobby job for this evening. Let's have a swig of Coke. Right, or Pepsi Max. So before we crack on, the other thing about this product is that if you don't shake it, waste of time. I could sit here for 2 hours doing this, waste of time. It's going to do nothing. This, like a modern house paint or a varnish you'd use on your shed or your patio, you need to stir this. So I have myself a trusty kebab stick. So what we're going to do, because it's been months since I've used it, we're going to lever the lid off, and we are going to basically give it a good old stir to get everything moving, because shaking is a fool's errand with this stuff. It's far too viscous. It's far too, dense a product to shake. Another little tip that I've found from years of using it is, because you use it so infrequently, one of the things that can happen is that you, particularly if you don't get the lid on just right, you will get a significant amount of drying, and you will sort of like lose the solvent base. If you need to, what that does is two things. Number one, it makes the product extremely claggy. But the other thing that it does is it concentrates up your pigment, so it makes it darker and darker and darker the closer you get to the bottom of the tin. And that's even if you stir it well. Simply by the solvent loss, you get accumulation. If you find that happens and you're in the bottom half or bottom third of the tin, adding a bit of mineral spirits back in, just ordinary, like DIY mineral spirits, you can thin it back out, restores some of its fluidity, and it can thin out the pigment so that it doesn't, completely overwhelm what you're painting it on. So yeah, just another little tip. So let's get this mixed up. Oh my god. Right, while I'm mixing this, let's chat a little bit about what we did at club. Let's just change this over. So, club night. Budding. At club this week, I got to play Malifaux again. So, I've had several games this year of Malifaux. I'm just going to move my mobile out of the way. You will also notice I'm wearing my hobby apron because this stuff will wreck your clothes, people. So make sure that you... I'm going to put some gloves on as well when I'm handling the minis, because otherwise it will get absolutely everywhere. So yeah, I've been playing games of Malifaux with Trevor at our games club most of the year. I can't remember, he must have had about half a dozen games this year of Malifaux. And Trevor's been getting to grips with his Jackdaw list, who's the master from the Explorers, I think. I can't remember what his faction is, to be fair. And I've been trying consistently to play with my Ten Thunders master, Asami Tanaka. For those of you who know Malifaux, it's the original Asami, not the Ascended one or what the new one is called. The original one, who was the summoning. She basically summons demons. That's her stick. Now then, this did not go well for me. For a start, this was a rerun of a game that we'd already attempted once, but I had to bail because one of my dogs was ill, so I had to take it to the vet. So we'd sort of done a partial setup and then actually didn't get to play much of a game. So we basically reran the game that we had to abort. Now, let me just grab a glove. With Malifaux, you randomly generate what are called your strategies and schemes, which are basically the scenarios that you need to score points with during the game. You randomly determine them at the start of each game. So rather than having set scenarios, Malifaux has a built-in process where it's all generated randomly to give you maximum variability on your games. Unfortunately, the main strategy that we generated for the game was called Curse something. But the gist of it was each player got to place a certain number of curse tokens, if you like, on the enemy models. And basically, if one of your models with a curse token dies, your opponent can choose to discard that token, and that allows them to score in that turn. Okay, so your models could have these curse tokens on, and if they die, your opponent's happy as Larry because they get a chance to score. There is a rule in this scenario that says any model that is summoned automatically gets given an extra curse token to basically nerf summoning for this scenario, because otherwise you can generate a ton. I get it, I understand why. Otherwise you would generate a ton of models that your opponent can't score from because they've got no curse tokens attached. But the problem is, with Asami's form of summoning, because there is various types of summoning in Malifaux, with Asami's summoning, any creature that she summons to the game automatically has effectively a 1-turn clock. Under default circumstances, that model has 1 turn of action before it basically explodes and dies. So those of you who are quite smart will have already worked out that this is effectively a hard counter against my whole Warbound strategy. Because even if I summoned a small model to do a job, you know, get a couple of cool activations out of it and do something clever, it would then explode at the end of my turn unless I really jumped through a lot of hoops to stop it dying. And my opponent could then go, oh, right, okay, well, you've just suicided that model, so I'll discard that token, and that means I don't need to do anything now. I've scored the main, I've scored the main strategy by doing 0. So it was like, okay then. So essentially, it meant that the one thing that I couldn't do this entire game without running the risk that I handed the game to Trevor was summon. As you can imagine, not the best situation to be in with this master or my list. So basically, I had to do a massive pivot and play this master without summoning. Now, those of you who are a bit more au fait with Malifaux know that this doesn't. You're going to say, well, Paul, why didn't you pick a different master after that strategy was revealed? Because the great thing about Malifaux, well, I'll say the great thing for some people about Malifaux is that you don't select your warband until you know what type of game you're playing. And more importantly, you don't select your warband until you know what faction your opponent is bringing. You don't necessarily know what master they're bringing, but you know what faction they are bringing. Now, this is fantastic, because if you have a massive collection of models, it avoids a lot of the meta shit that you get in games like 40k, where it's like, oh, you brought orcs, well, I brought fucking custodes. Good luck trying to kill any of my models. Do you know what I mean? Because you can immediately say, oh, I'm not bringing that master for this. I'm going to bring something else. Now, of course, some people might say, oh, that's great if you own every fucking game model in Malifaux. Yeah, okay, that is a thing, you know. And again, the reason, basically what I was doing was sticking to one master because I wanted to get more expert with Asami, which is why I've just been playing with Asami all year, because I play it so rarely. I needed to have that consistency to basically build up my skill for playing the game. So do you know what? I just rolled with it. And as I predicted, it was fucking horrible. Not only did I basically have a hard nerf and my master was, on the back foot for the entire game, but in Malifaux, your random generation system is a deck of cards rather than dice. And basically, my deck was just like, oh, do you want the absolute fucking worst card flip at every time where it really matters? Yeah, I can do that. This absolutely pivotal card flip that means that if you fail it, you lose one of your big killing models that you won't be able to replace because you've got no summoning. Here, have the Black Joker, and fuck you, by the way. So, yeah, not a great game. It was a fucking slog, quite frankly. The only thing that was good about it, I say good, the only thing that was a bit less frustrating about it was that, bless him, Trevor made a couple of tactical boobs and basically put his own game on hard mode because he misread one of the sort of side quests. In Malifaux, you've got your main scoring opportunity, which is called a strategy, and then you've got side scoring opportunities called schemes. And basically, Trevor misread his scheme, and he basically put the game on massive fucking hard mode for himself. We played through for 4 turns, even though frankly by turn 2 I was completely screwed, and Trevor only won 4-3. Now Malifaux is a low scoring game anyway. I think 10 points is the maximum you can score, but Trevor beat me 4-3 in the end. But bless him, in fairness to Trevor, he should have beaten me by a hell of a lot more than that. It was just, as I say, he made a bit of a boob, and then the problem with that was, having done it wrong, he then wasted at least 3 or 4 model activations over 2 separate turns, unpicking the rat's nest of mess he'd made to try and make it a scoring opportunity. So he sort of like gave me a massive leg up by disabling 2 or 3 of his own models for 2 turns, which made the game seem way less one-sided than it actually was. Another thing to note, by the way, about Quick Shade is don't, like I've just done, miss parts of the models that you're quick shading, because this is a high gloss varnish. One thing that you can't do easily is put paint on it, because water-based paints will bead up and not stick and be a pain in the arse. So when, like me, you realise that you've just put it over a guy whose bayonet is not painted, you've created yourself a living nightmare. So don't do that, whatever you do. Okay? Just so that we're clear. Okay. So yeah. What else? So that was last week. Again, I really am enjoying exploring Malifaux. It is an incredibly complicated game, and if I was to give a piece of advice to somebody who wants to play Malifaux casually, it's pick a warband, stick with that warband. There are some game systems you can roll out with a new model every time you play and try something new every time you play. Until you absolutely have Malifaux nailed, I would recommend build and collect something you enjoy and like playing, and play it, and play it again, and play it again, and play it again. Very much like Infinity. Yeah, that, I'll be honest, Orinoco, it's not going to stop me. And again, it is not unfixable, as you say. Once the matte surface goes on, what I tend to do, again, another little tip. What I'll do is I'll get some watered down PVA and paint that on, and then that gives you a better grip surface. Water-based paints stick quite well to PVA, particularly if it's thinned and put on as a thin layer with a brush. So yeah, no, it's not unsavable, but it's just more work. People, don't give yourself more work. The whole point is to save yourself work, not give yourself more. Another thing that I will mention at this point, we've all been there where we've painted models, and you're painting models and they go through the ugly stage and everything looks a bit weird, and you're thinking, oh my god, I've really screwed this up. maybe you've done a wash step or you've done some dry brushing and it's as scruffy as fuck, and you're thinking, oh my god. But then when you do the next step, your highlights or painting back in or whatever, you can bring things back. This, particularly if you're doing stuff that's not very textured. So, like for example, I can't really show it on camera because my hands are all covered in crap and I don't really want to touch the keyboard. But because the field gun is basically just flat metal, we're getting a lot of streaking and lining. This stuff is very much like contrast paint. It will move for hours. Okay, so just don't feel the fear. The model will change and then keep changing and keep changing as this stuff creeps along at a snail's pace. So just be aware of that. Don't panic. Don't start reaching for the mineral spirits or whatever, or the IPA, the isopropyl, and I'm gonna clean all this off. Just go with it. What is it the saying style? Stay on target. So yeah, that was the last week. The week before was our board game week, and you know what? I had yet another great session of Underworlds, which is a Games Workshop game. For those of you who don't know, it's basically a Games Workshop board game with miniatures. Now, it wasn't as good as the last time I played Underworlds, which I think was the month before, at the beginning of November. It was the same opponent, V, and the games were way more lopsided. I ended up winning. We didn't even count the points at the end because I was like winning fucking 8-2 or 10-2 or something. It was just one of them things. The things didn't go. We first of all, V played the Slanesh guys. Is it the something Dread Pageant or whatever the hell they're called? I don't know what they're called. Anyway, the Slaneshi boys in Underworlds, and I played the Elven guys. Again, I don't know what the names of any of these things are. And then we swapped. So when I played the elves, I crushed him, and then when we swapped and I played the Slanesh, I crushed him again back the other way. I think part of it was because I have played so much more Underworlds than V. I am able to grok and read how to play new warbands quicker than him. He pretty much I think from speaking to him, he plays the Slanesh one a lot because he's a big fan of Slanesh. So it was just one of them things. The month before, the games that we played were literally like nail biters, where we were scoring points on the last turn of the game, last activation of the game to win. And in fairness, for me, Underworlds will go that way more often than not. Out of the, I don't know, 25, 30 games of Underworlds I've played over the years with various warbands from the different, right back at the beginning at Shadespire right through to the current version, I've enjoyed it more often than I've thought, oh, that was one-sided bollocks. It has happened, but it's not as common as it is in other Games Workshop games. So, there you go. So yeah, that's what I did at club. Here is in the normal course of events is where we would do the news. Well, there isn't really any news this week. I don't know if any of you guys have found the same, but there really isn't much coming out on YouTube at the moment. The big two news stories of the week were Henry Cavill and the bloody Games Workshop Amazon contract crap, and Hasbro's share price and fucking 1100 redundancies, and I just don't give a shit about that sort of thing. I know it's hot news for the internet, but it's not hot news for me. You know, I don't the big companies like that. I don't really care. I think a lot of the other content creators are um obviously on a hiatus because everybody's heading into Christmas. They're all producing weird little themed skit videos or, just stuff that's, yeah, it is fine, but it's not enough to me to recommend. There is one thing I would say though. Um, Obviously this time of year, a lot of channels do top tens or top 100s or whatever, best games of the year, best games of all time, whatever. Um, there is a channel called Board Game Bollocks. Yes, you heard that right. Board Game Bollocks. It's an irreverent guy. He's got a London Cockney accent, so he's obviously from here in the UK for you non-UK people. Um, and essentially he's got this manner about him where he's just fucking rude and abrasive, and he doesn't give a fuck what you think, and he just gives you his opinion. He's doing a top 10, a top 100 games video series, and that's funny. It is worth watching if you just want to watch somebody who actually just holds the whole content. Watch somebody has made a great joke out of basically holding the entire content production process in utter contempt. Then it's very funny. Um, uh, and he's got. Do you know what though? I do actually like the cut of his jib in terms of what games he just like. If he likes a game, he likes a game. It might be have a fucking it might be like have a 1 out of 100 on Board Game Geek and have nothing but negative reviews. If he likes it, he'll fucking tell you he likes it, and it's like he doesn't give a fuck what you think. And he does provide a refreshing breath of fresh air on some of the big names that get hyped to the fucking tits. As I say, it's board games only, so don't go there expecting miniature war game coverage, sadly. But it's a good little channel, Board Game Bollocks. I think it might be BG Bollocks. But anyway, other than that, there's not a lot on the fucking internet at the moment. So I hope you guys are getting ready for Christmas. Before we get into my main topic, give us a shout out in the chat if any of you guys are still here and haven't gone and found something better to do. How are we doing for Christmas? Are you all ready? Have you got all your presents bought? Have you got all your food and booze shopped? Are you hoarded in, ready to lock down and say piss off to the world for about 3 or 4 days? How are you guys doing? We're pretty much set. We're gonna go and see one of my stepsons. Actually, we might see 2 of my stepsons on Sunday, and some of the grandchildren. But all the shopping is done, all the presents are bought, everything's fucking dialed in. I'm just waiting for work to end tomorrow, and then I'm doing note for about 3 or 4 days until we have to go back after Christmas. Yeah. Good for you, Paul. I think, to be honest with you, mate, that's why there's no news. Everybody in our sector's already wound down and shut, haven't they? You know, you needed to get, if you were going to move product, the time to do it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. At this stage, even if you wanted to move product, nobody can ship it and get it delivered. So, there's no point. And again, you're not designing and launching this time. And you should have, if you were going to launch something for Christmas, you should have launched it a month ago, at least. So let's get into our top pick, shall we? Highlights and lowlights of 2023. Let's start with a low. Okay. So inevitably, right, I have been in an abusive relationship with Games Workshop since I was like 18 years old, maybe younger, 17, 16. Trying to remember. Basically, I got into 40k at Rogue Trader, right at the ground floor, and I, didn't have to wait long to have my squats completely fucking decannoned and fucking got rid of. I didn't have to wait long to have my Imperial Guard all made fucking obsolete because the jump packs and their combat shields and whatever Rough Rider platoon weren't a fucking thing anymore. Um, so, as I say, I've been in this abusive relationship with them for many, many years. But do you know what? I still can't help myself. Obviously, you've heard me talking on the last few streams about Warhammer the Old World and how initially I was like, you've got to be fucking joking if you think I'm coming anywhere near that. And they're starting to suck me in. They're starting to describe the rules, and I'm thinking, ooh, it sounds quite good. Well, exactly the same fucking thing happened with Warhammer 40k 10th edition. The first low point of 2023. And it is low hanging fruit because I know I'm not alone, okay? 8th edition was fine right in the beginning when they did the indexes, binned all the codexes off, changed the basic profiles so that everything was 2 pluses and it wasn't weapon skill, ballistic skill on a table like it is in the older versions. The indexes, apart from a few weird models that were missing, like I think Space Marine Chaplain on bike, every model got a profile and everything was sort of balanced. It was one of the most fun times to play 40k because you pretty much could just field your collection, put whatever on the table, and it was a bit of rip roaring fun. They killed it and made it complicated and bloated, and it took fucking forever, and everything got super unbalanced. And then they went through 9th edition and it got worse and it got more toxic and it got more unbalanced and the gameplay took longer. And then I saw with 10th edition, oh, we got another big reset. Oh, glory, glory. And then the big reset came and it was horseshit. I played a game against Custodes not long after launch. My Necrons against a Custodes army. It was one of the most awful games I've ever had of any war game. It was completely one-sided. I was totally impotent to do anything. I was tabled, literally blown off the table by turn 2. I think except for like one unit, and it was like, okay, we might as well pack this up and call it a day. I came back and had a second bite of the cherry again. Necrons versus Custodes. We played the cards that they launched. They used to be called Maelstrom, and I think they've had a stupid Tempest cards. I can't remember what they're called now. They've had a daft name in every edition because again, you can't just call thing the same. You can't just give it the same fucking name every edition. You've got to change it for the sake of changing it. And I did sort of like the dynamic objective thing. I liked that play format in 8th edition when they had it, or 7th, or whenever it started. It was my favourite way to play the game then, and it was more enjoyable, but it was still ridiculously lopsided and one-sided, and essentially I couldn't beat this infantry list because I didn't bring any anti-tank. Well, I didn't bring everything as anti-tank. Anything I should have basically just built a list of anti-tank just to kill some stupid guys in suits. So yeah, it was awful. So that's my first one. I know you guys are probably not representative of the GW fanboy community, so you're probably not too shocked or too arsed. But yeah, I still have Dark Eldar, Imperial Guard, Space Marines, more Space Marines than you can shake your shitty stick at. What else do I have? Necrons. and I can't play it in 40k because the game blows goats. You know, it just has. I played another game just to prove that it wasn't Custodes. I played a game against Death Guard, and of course that was the opposite. 2 turns in, I felt so bad about the fact that I'd literally only lost 1 model and I'd killed half of Dan's army, that it was like, I still hate playing this because you feel like a scumbag. You know, the game's it's just a bad game, guys. The system's convoluted. The way they write the rules for the factions is completely fucking bollocks, and the playtime is far too long. You know, you're putting down 1,000 points for side, and you look at kiss goodbye to 3 hours for your first game. It's like, it's too much. It's too long. Goes on forever to no good point. So yeah, not impressed. Not surprisingly. So let's talk about one of the high points, and fuck me, is the contrast chalk and cheese. So also this year we had Mantic. I believe it was this year. It might have been last year, but I tell you what, I didn't play it till this year, so I'm counting it as this year. Me and my mate Ricky from the club, I can't remember the background, but we said, shall we just do Firefight? And it was like, yeah, I have a ton of Forge Fathers, let's do Firefight. Firefight is essentially Mantic's answer to Warhammer 40,000. So it's futuristic science fiction battles at around the 40 to 80 model count game size, set in the far future. This Firefight, I believe, won some awards. My God, does that game deserve to win awards? Firefight is a fucking brilliant game. I have played, I don't know how many games I've played of Firefight. I've enjoyed all of them. One of them, there was a bit of a one-sided crushing victory for Ricky. But do you know why? Because he played well, and he played the scenario perfectly, and I played it badly. That's why I lost. I didn't lose because my faction's underpowered. I didn't lose because I didn't know all my special rules. I didn't lose because of the fucking dice. I lost because Ricky played the scenario brilliantly, and I played it badly, and got fucking crushed. All of the other games have been reasonably close, and close or not, they've all been enjoyable. The game is so smooth it almost plays itself. There is enough decision points for you to feel like you make a difference, but not so many that you just get analysis paralysis, or you get your head wedged in a rulebook and can't actually move forward with your life. It's it's a brilliant game, and if you haven't played it, play it. So yeah, that's one of the highlights of the year. Let's have another low point, and we're back to good old Games Workshop. Now, if you want to go back and watch our streams, you'll notice that I leapt to the defense of Games Workshop in the wave of a huge amount of criticism when they relaunched Kill Team in whatever this version's called. I don't fucking know. Kill Team 2021 or whatever the fuck it is. They don't. If they numbered their games with editions or whatever, then we'd know, but they don't. So the current version of Kill Team, which was a massive departure for Games Workshop from the way they've done Kill Team previously. Previously with Kill Team, even the iteration before the current, it was essentially 40k, but with low model count. A lot of your core mechanics were pulled straight out of the 40k playbook, and then they added like an extra rules for injuries so that models didn't die after a single hit. Because when you've only got 6 models, if everything dies after one hit, it makes for like a pretty short, one-sided. It can be a very short one-sided game. Whoever goes first will get a massive advantage. So they dressed it up with loads of little extra bits and pieces. But it was basically just 40k. Then with the new one, they basically designed the whole game from scratch. So models had a series of activation points. They had special abilities. The whole core dice interaction was changed. The close combat dice system, where your models you basically use your dice. You can either use your dice offensively, a bit like Bushido, where you can use your dice that you've rolled in close combat either offensively against your opponent or to defensively to block your opponent's offense, and it gives you a nice little back and forth. It's got some beautiful design touches to it, and I was a fan. I was like, this is great. This is something different. This is something new. I'm really enjoying this. And a lot of people, as you can imagine, a lot of the negativity on the internet was, oh, this isn't 40k anymore. I'm just going to go and grab my mineral spirits so that I can wash my brush. A lot of the negativity on the internet was precisely what I didn't want. Oh, it's not 40k anymore. It's too different. It's weird. I mean, it's got some weird design foibles. The way they went with, I guess they did it because it's like what board game manufacturers do for an international market. To avoid them having to put numbers on movement, they chose circle, square, and diamond to represent fixed distances, whether that's 2, 3, and 4 inches or 2, 4, and 6. I can't even fucking remember. And it was just like, why did you do that? Why? But that's just fucking retarded. So there were a couple of things in it that you were just like, what? But they were missteps. They don't make the game unplayable. They're just like questionable. And not, not oh, that's it. So all bets are off. And I pretty much bought every fucking thing that they made for that game. I bought all of the 2 big box starter sets at 110 quid each or whatever the hell they were. Yeah, I get it, mate. Yeah, the whole I don't know what their argument. I've never read a convincing argument as to why they chose it. I don't know if they were trying to appeal to a board game market. I don't know if the argument was it's better for international sales. Whatever the argument is, it's a hollow one, and it probably doesn't hold any fucking water. So I bought everything for that fucking game. And then around July, August time, I think it was, this was the time when Games Workshop's pre-order system was basically broken as fuck. If you wanted something that wasn't a bog standard plastic model kit for one of their core games, Age of Sigmar or 40k, you bought it the day it was released, or you never saw it again. And I believe it was the one after Gallo Dark, I think it was, or the one after it. I can't even fucking remember now. But one of the 2-player box sets came out. It's the one with the Beastmen and the not squats. I keep wanting to call them squats. Leagues of Votan, right? I'd bought every single one so far. I'd bought the annual, the 2022 annual or whatever it was. I'd bought all of the extra fucking kits. So I'd got like the Plague Nurgly one, and I'd got the bloody Rogue Tradery one. And I went to get this box set, and I went in on pre-order day, 10 a.m. or whenever the fucking launch was, despite being at work and despite having to do this at work, which is like, no. And I didn't get it because they were all sold out within fucking seconds of the pre-order opening or the sale opening. And it's like, and this is the second low point of my year. I gave up on that game. And I'll be honest, that was the point where I pretty much gave up on modern Games Workshop. I realised that if I was Games Workshop are no longer producing expandable game systems. Okay, what they are producing are rare collectibles that are designed to be traded on a secondary market long after they've been launched. Okay, and if I want to do that, I'll collect ancient coins or fucking actual war memorabilia, or I don't fucking know. I'll go on there and try and find a mint copy of Warhammer Quest for 350 quid instead of a fucking copy of Gallo Dark or whatever the bollocks it was for 350 quid, because it's never going to be made again. And it's only scalpers, you know, and again, at least I can stomach spending that money on something that's like a mint copy of Warhammer Quest from fucking 1992 or whenever the fuck that was made. That's an old thing. That's something that's been cared for, protected, and looked after. If I spend 250 quid to get one of these fucking Rise from the Ashes or one of these fucking Kill Team start sets that I missed out on, the only reason I'm doing that is because some scalping twat bought 12 copies on the pre-order and then sat on the bastards as some sort of fucking retirement plan to flog one on eBay a year at a 700 or 800% markup. It's like, yeah, fuck you. And I wondered whether you'd chip in. Well, what you can do is if you keep your powder dry, Smithy, you can come in with your 3 highs and 3 lows at the end for the audience. And do you know what? Actually, consider that an open offer, guys. For everybody watching later on YouTube, keep your eyes on the comments because people might be putting in their highs and lows. And do you know what? If you are watching later on YouTube, just give us your 3. Top 3 highs, top 3 lows. Just give us bullet points in the comments below. That would be fucking awesome. And we can all sort of share our experiences. So that's 2 out of 3 negatives. And I'm not overplaying this for effect, right? I have been a fan and a player of Games Workshop games and products since I was at school. I am 52 years old. Okay? But the company I'm fucking done. I want to play games and collect models. I don't want to buy rare products. I don't want to buy an investment vehicle. I just want to buy a fucking game. Okay? Anyway, that might have been my wife pinging my mobile saying stop shouting, so I'll try and tone it down a bit. My second high point of the year. Now then, I made a list earlier. My second high point of the year has come back to me. Is not Mantic, but it could have been so closely. The other game from Mantic that I played for the first time this year was Armada. And don't get me wrong, that's a fucking good game. Now I know, let's be fair, I know it's based on Warlord's Black Seas, he wants to say, with some simplified rules for wind and movement and various other things to make it less historically accurate as a representation of, large ship combat in the 1500s, 1600s, whatever it is. But it's still a fucking good game. I think it's got some balance issues. There are some, particularly the big ships they've issued. The rules are fucking wonky as bollocks, mate. So it's good, but it's not quite good enough to make it to my list. Now, what is good enough to make it to my list is Carnivale. Carnivale is a game that I've had stuff for years. I think I bought and painted my vampires when I was still in Scotland, so well over a year ago now. In fact, it might have been not UKGE this year, UKGE the year before when I first thought about it or got into it. But I haven't seriously played it. I played the San Canciano starter a couple of times in Scotland just over a year ago. But this year with Smithy, Cookie in the comments and my normal co-host, we played quite a few games of Carnivale this year. Carnivale is a fantastic game. If there was a game, if I was to think about games that I often sort of play this scenario in my head, if I could only collect and play one game, what would it be? For me, probably first would be Frostgrave. Second would maybe be Burrows and Badgers, and that's simply because I love the miniatures so much. I've only ever played it once, but I would not mind collecting and painting every single miniature for that game because they absolutely sing to me. One piece metal sculpts with all the character in the world, and fuck me, they're anthropomorphic animals. Tick, tick, tick. But Carnivale would definitely be there. I think if I could definitely make Carnivale probably my only game. I often say on this live stream, for those of you who are regulars, well, Infinity is the best game I've ever played. Infinity is still the best War Games rule set I have ever played. I would not make it my only game because I find I am not at all interested in the fluff. I am not at all interested in the art aesthetic, and I find the whole thing. I am engaged playing what is a brilliantly executed rule set. I don't really. There are parts of the game that for me are just too dry to be 110% engaging. Carnivale's got the right mix of weird, wonderful. I mean, Christ, I get to play Dracula. It's like, oh my god, it's so cool. It's got a brilliant dynamic rule set. It's a slow model count skirmish game. It's got loads of moving parts. You play it and then you play it again and you think, oh no, I can. There's something else I can do here. And you pick up on things. The last game we played, where we really started to explore the flexibility of what we could do and what we couldn't do. It's a bit like Frostgrave. Everything's loosey goosey enough that you can say to your opponent, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this grapple action, which allows me to move a model that I'm in base contact with, and I'm going to grapple this miniature and put it between me and the miniature with the musket so that you can't shoot me. So you're literally like body shielding. And it's just a tiny little bit of lateral thinking to make the rule set do the most incredible cinematic things, all within a framework that's been written for you. You're not wigging it. You're using what you've been given to just create moments that you just won't forget. I mean, I'll never forget that moment in gaming. So yeah, Carnivale is by far and away one of my best high points of this year. I am so glad I got to play that game. I'm so glad that I own some of the stuff for that game. And again, I want more now. I've got probably enough vampires. I need to start a second faction, seriously. I'm probably going to go Vatican. I've owned and hard and flipped and flopped. But I think because of what my friends are collecting, I'm going to go Vatican, so we got something a bit different. And again, it just seems a great so I'm Dracula, sort of Lord of all evil. Well, that's fine. I'm the Pope's man on earth. Take that. I think it would just be a great faction to collect as a foil for the vampires. So that's my second high point. Let's come to my last low point, because I'm only going to do 3 of each, and it's 9:15. We've done all right here. My last low point is, and it's just disappointing and depressing. It's Gloomhaven. Okay? I have owned Gloomhaven for years. I picked up the Gloomhaven when I backed the Frosthaven Kickstarter because I didn't own it. So I actually have both games. And you see all the hype. Oh, Gloomhaven's best game on Board Game Geek. Sort of like one of the best games of all time. Blah, blah, blah. I was so hyped to finally play Gloomhaven. But when I did, it was not good. For the real in-depth sort of breakdown of how bad it was, feel free to go back and watch some of our live streams where David and I talk about our experiences playing Gloomhaven. Funnily enough, mate, when I came to doing this low point, it was a flip. I put down Flames initially because Flames was a bit of a, oh, really, is that it? That's Flames of War, by the way, for the people who don't know. The World War II 15mm, a World War II game by Battlefront, I want to say. But no, just fucking hell. David and I think we played something like we played the first scenario of Gloomhaven 4-5 times. Each time we were tweaking the characters we were taking because we're playing it two-handed, two different, heroes, and we tweaked the heroes. We kept turning the difficulty down and down, and it was just finally we got it to the stage where we could complete a scenario just. And this might be us, but that's the point. This is my low point. And even after we'd done that and got to playing the game, it was fine. Do you know what I mean? We played. I've lost count of how many scenarios. I think we've played about 5 or 6 scenarios now, and I can only now say that I'm starting to get why people got so excited about it, because you've got real decision making when you choose with a scenario. Do I play scenario A or scenario B? Because whichever one I play will completely change the story, and I will lock a load of other content off that I can never play again. And it's becoming quite engaging. But fucking hell, to actually push through to that, oh, was it a slog? So yeah, I don't know if you guys have played it, tried it, or whatever, but it's not a bad game. But is it the best game ever made? I wouldn't even say it's the best dungeon crawler ever made. It's got some nice things. The other thing that it's got is way too much fucking randomness in it. There are things in there that are randomly determined that don't need to be randomly determined. Just have the bad guys behave on a simple program. Don't put randomizations in there, because the other thing that would do is if the bad guy models followed simple programming, it would allow the players to plan what they did better, and it would offset some of the massive skew in difficulty, because you've got virtually, again, unless you're either a savant level player who can read all these cards and internalize all these numbers and then probability map from random card flips and almost like card count 6 little mini decks in a game, yeah, you'll probably be great at this game. But if you can't do that, then it's just like, as long as I go quite early in the round, I'll be fine. Oh, look, these archers are going to go before everybody else, and that means they're going to move up to me and shoot me. Oh, shit. And then that means I can't move to that hex, and I can't do that. And now I'm fucked. It's just like, what? Because you flipped that card? How the fuck? So, yeah. Definite low point. Absolute depressing low point. And so I now have a ton of fucking Frosthaven. Don't get me wrong. I will probably explore all of Gloomhaven and Frosthaven at some point, but I won't be buying the next one, whatever it is, big shit in a box haven. I won't be buying the next one. Not unless I undergo some sort of personality fucking transplant or disorder in the next 12 months. So that brings us to my last high point of the year. And initially, without being sappy, I was going to say YouTube and doing the live streams. But then I thought, no, fuck you. But So what my actual third high point of the year was board gaming in general, and specifically playing a campaign of Arkham Horror the board game third edition, with Cookie, who's got the main board game and all of the expansions. We've been exploring board games more as part of club, as part of getting together and playing games here at my place. At least once a month, some twice a month if we can fit it in. And as somebody who was really miniatures wargaming and CCGs and board games are a thing, and I'll buy a board game if it's funny or if it's super cool. I'm, you know, I'm enjoying exploring board games more. You get to experience a lot of variety, and they don't demand a lot of you. Do you know what I mean? Um, I guess if you're one of these people who struggles with learning new rules quickly and sort of like getting your head around complex problems and different moving parts quickly, I can see why modern board gaming might be a turn off, because even easy modern board games are quite complicated things sometimes. But for me, that's not a problem, and I just love it. I just love the variety in it. Um, that thankfully, Paul, touch wood, that is not something that I can say. Again, I consider myself very fortunate. I've got a fantastic friend in Cookie. I've got fantastic opportunities to play games. I mean, I'm part of a local gaming club, but even if that were to go horribly wrong and that club were to die, there are two other clubs within 10 miles, the whole weekly meetings that I could go to. And I be honest, I could probably play every week at my house. I have friends who would probably tear my arm out of my socket. Um, so the gaming opportunities is something that I am absolutely replete with, and it's something I'm incredibly grateful for. So there we go. That's my 3 highs and 3 lows of 2023. I know this was probably a little bit more of a subdued live stream compared to our normal ones, what without my co-host being here in the flesh at least. Um, but I think what we'll do is we'll call it there. So, um, uh, before I go, may all of you, both in the chat here tonight, and watching later on YouTube, may you all have a fantastic Christmas. And if for whatever reason you don't celebrate Christmas, then have a fantastic season of goodwill or whatever label you want to put on it. And we will see you next week in between Christmas and New Year. Cookie and I will be having a live stream as usual, where we'll probably be rooting around in Santa's sack to see what he bought us, lucky little boys, for Christmas Day. Before I go, though, he says, let me just show everybody at home what the Japanese look like with their quick shade on. So if now I'm going to put my gloves back on again, because this is going to get messy if not. I'm going to put one glove on at least. So what I'll do is I'll just give you guys a quick eyeball on what difference the dip has made. So 3, 2, 1, you're back in the room. So that is what it looks like after the dip has been applied. Okay. You can the glossiness is already starting to overwhelm stuff. But I think you can see, even with the soft tone, the change in the color values across everything is pretty massive. If we go for one of these prone infantry guys, that's, I mean, you can see how the stuff works. It works just like Agrax or any other shading product. You can see that there's a couple of heavy dark spots on the heels of his boots. That's what I meant about that gathering. That's a pretty good example. Now, luckily for me, they're the heels of his boots, so it doesn't matter. But you have to watch for that sort of stuff on models, that are standing. Again, I've managed to avoid it, but you can see the hands there, particularly that lower hand. Now, if you are not careful with this product, you will get it oozing down an entire arm, and you would get on the end of his fist a big, like, chocolate-coloured lump. And obviously, if you try to get rid of it, it peels off as a lump and just leaves a hole in the polyurethane with the exposed paint underneath, and it's virtually impossible to hide or mask. So that's what you. And again, I hope you can sort of see that I've managed to do a pretty good job of avoiding anything nasty. But then again, I've been working with the product for quite a while, so but it again, I think that gives a fair shake, fair representation of what you can do with it. So yeah, yes, David's heaving and fussing is funny, but this isn't the devil's piss. It is quite cool stuff. Right, that is it now. I'm definitely going, and I'm going to have a Christmas that I won't forget. You have one too. See you later.